Hi everyone, how are you? As you can see, today's class is about research paradigms. In this video, we will try to identify the different paradigms and their main characteristics and the role of paradigms in educational research. First, let's see what a paradigm is. I picked this picture with different glasses because there are different ways to observe reality and to observe our classroom. Look at this example. We have here a problem or an issue or reality or phenomenon, and it's being observed by two different guys. None of them is wrong. They're just appreciating the phenomenon from a different point of view. And that different point of view is what a paradigm is. It's a different point of view or a set of beliefs, values, and assumptions that a group of researchers have in common when they do research. Okay? There are different types of paradigms because there are different ways to generate knowledge. There are some trends that only believe there is a trend that mainly believes that knowledge is built around facts, as in students have 3 hours of English class a week. That is a fact. Everybody knows that. Or 30% of my students failed the exam. That was tested, okay? Or this one, also tested. 70% of students achieve a B1 level at the end of the course. It could have been me who tested them, or could have been somebody else. The thing is, at the end, we have a fact. Okay. There is another trend built around beliefs to generate knowledge, as in these examples. The teacher believes students enjoy the use of games in class. This has not been tested by the teacher. It's only a personal perception. Another one, students feel they can learn more when working in small groups. Nobody has tested this with students. This is only based on students' own perceptions and feelings. And one more example, the students and teachers think that they create a better learning environment when they start the class with some dancing. It might not be the same case in a different class. This only happens in this particular class because it's only these students and this teacher, the ones who enjoy some dancing at the beginning of the lesson. So knowledge, this is the knowledge for one particular class, and it's mainly built around the participants' beliefs, teachers and students. Okay, let's have a quick look at this picture. The idea is that you describe it. We can describe it from a factual point of view or from an interpretation based on our own beliefs about what we see. If I were to describe this picture from a factual perspective, I would say there are 9 students and 1 teacher working in the library. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there is another student there, 9, and the teacher. And it's obviously a library, as we can see the books at the back in like massive bookshelves. If I were to describe this from my own perceptions or from my own beliefs, I would say that students seem to enjoy the activities in the library. I can interpret students' faces and tell that they have fun. Probably if there was another teacher, or another researcher, or even your own description, you would have probably a different interpretation. None of them is wrong. They are just a description taken from different positions, from different paradigms. So let's see now paradigms. There are 2 main paradigms based on factual information and beliefs. The circle here is our classroom, or the reality that we encounter in our classrooms, and this is the researcher. The first thing that we notice is that the researcher here is outside, whereas here is in the inside. We can probably think that the teacher is the researcher in this case, and not here. The positivist paradigm it's observing reality independently of the researcher. Reality, in this case our classroom, is not connected to the researcher. The researcher doesn't know our classroom. In this case, the researcher is an outsider, so it's impartial, and does research mainly based on factual information. The purpose of this paradigm is to explain a particular scenario. with the idea to predict what would happen in similar scenarios and to generalize results. So basically, what happens in one setting in one classroom is likely to repeat in a different classroom with similar characteristics. Okay? And that factual information is mainly based on quantitative data collected. One example are the test results. On the other side, we have the interpretive paradigm, whose main purpose is to understand, but to understand one particular classroom, not all the classrooms. And here the investigation or research is mainly carried out by the teacher, as reality is subjective and differs from person to person. So my classroom, or what happens in my classroom, will not necessarily replicate in a different classroom with different students and a different teacher. The world does not exist independently of our knowledge of it, which means that what happens in our classroom is mainly what we create in the classroom, like the interactions that happens between the teacher and the students. That reality exists because we created it. We're part of it. Its main aim is to understand the phenomenon or to understand the reality from an individual perspective. It has limited transferability, as I cannot generalize my observation or my understanding of this particular classroom to other classrooms. And this, my understanding would be mainly based on qualitative data, as the data that we have from observations and interviews of my own classroom and students, of course. Let's see an example. Case 1. The Ministry of Education has decided that 8th grades of all public schools have to sit for a CAT test in order to identify students' English performance before they start high school. In this case, the Minister of Education is not part of my classroom. He is an outsider. He wants to test all students in 8th grade in order to generalize results, for example, and it's going to be made based on quantitative data. So factual information. In this case, we have the GET test result. Different case. The head of the English department at a school, Ana Maria, decided to hold focus group with teachers and students to know how they have felt working with the new English book. In this case, Ana Maria is part of the school context. She knows the reality very well, and she's concerned about understanding one particular phenomenon. In this case, how students feel or have felt working with this particular new book. It doesn't mean that students from other schools would feel in the same way. This Ana Maria is only concerned about how her students from her school and her teachers feel in this particular setting, just to understand how they have experienced the use of this new book. All right. These are the two main paradigms, but there is another one, and it's called the critical paradigm. In the critical paradigm, we know, as you can see, we know that reality has its particular characteristics as it is shaped by social, political, cultural, economic, ethnic, and gender values. In reality, here in our classroom, in this circle, we will also find the teacher researcher, but we will also find the students and members of the community as well. They work together, taking action to change. It says here, reality is alterable by human action. We can change what happens here in the classroom. We can change. Together, teacher, students, and the community can work together to change what happens in the classroom so we improve the learning experience. In this case, the English learning experience. The critical paradigm main purpose is to transform. It's a transformation. We don't need to take everything for granted or just to accept the reality as it presents to us. We can change it for the better. In this case, from this position, from the critical paradigm position, the research relies greatly on dialogic methods as interviews or conversation, or to foster conversation and reflection. We need to work together, teachers with students and the community, to work together to change reality, to change the English learning experience. As you can see here, the paradigm considers how things ought to be, how things should be. In my English class, the students should be able to speak the language, and together we can work towards that. We need to question together the natural state of reality. Let's imagine our classroom in vulnerable contexts where students speak very little English. We don't need to accept the reality just because of its characteristics. We can question that reality, and with the help of everyone, we can transform it so more students can speak the language. Let's see this as an example. Mariana, the English teacher of 8th graders, has implemented speaking games in class to help students develop that skill, to develop speaking. Students suggested the use of games in an interview after having shown low performance in speaking in this 8th grade class. Okay? In this case, Mariana and her students are working collaboratively. They are having a conversation together on how they can improve the speaking skill. Okay? It's not just about giving students low marks and continue working with them. We can transform that reality and together find a solution so students can develop their speaking skills in this case. All right, to finish this short video, there are 2 questions that we're going to discuss in our online session. First, how do you understand research paradigms now after this short video? And which paradigms are more likely to find in classroom research? All right, let's discuss that in our online meeting. See you there.